this video, I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks on how to mimic the Persona 5 anime look in Blender. And if you want a detailed step-by-step tutorial course, I have that on Udemy, but without any further delay, let's jump in straight into it. So when modeling anime characters, one thing you need to bear in mind is the anime character proportions. So basically anime character proportions differ greatly from that of stylized characters. So let's take a look on my references that I made for my character here, starting with the head reference. Usually, an anime character head, whether it's male or female, consists of two halves. One half being the head and the hair half. The other half starts with the eyebrows and the rest of the face. Now, that second half that we're talking about also consists of two quarters. One being at the start of the nose, that consists of the nose and the eyes, and the rest of that quarter consists of the mouth itself and the jaw or chin line. As for the hands are basically two heads combined together. And the first quarter, or you could say somewhere around the middle, is going to be where we have the elbow, and the rest of it is going to be from the elbow to the fingertips. Now as for the abdomen or the torso of our character, this is basically usually around 3 heads in length. Because this is an adult male character, the entire body is that of 7 heads or to 6.5 heads. So I allocated 3 heads for the torso. The rest of the 4 are going to be for the legs. And middle way there, we can have the navel. Here is where our legs start, the ending of the crotch of our character, and here is where the neck stops. So this is how you could measure it properly. Anyway, as for the final part, the legs, they consist of 4 heads, that being 2 heads before you reach the knees, and 2 heads until you reach the shoes. Around quarter way there, you can start with the shoes, and this knee is where you end with the neck of the first 2 heads. These are the basic proportions for an adolescent male character. Now, one of the most important elements of a 3D anime character are the shaders and the outline, both of which are made to achieve a 2D look in a 3D space. The outlines can be achieved by hull inversion, that using a solidify modifier and inverting it. However, for the shaders, they are made using these 3 important nodes: the diffuse, the color ramp, the mix RGB node. So basically what I do is that I use the diffuse and the color ramp node and the shader to RGB node to achieve the shading effect. Then I use the mix RGB node to mix that shading effect with the texture map that I made within Substance Painter in order to mimic the style of Persona, and the skin shader is the end result. Feel free to take a screenshot. Now as for the eyes, the Persona eyes differ greatly from the basic anime eyes, in the sense that they are basically irises floating in front of a plane that I extruded from my main character. Here you see the plane that I have as my eyeball, and I have fitted this sphere to be the iris around it, so I can mimic that look of the lacrimal duct with the eyelashes here. And that style is very apparent in close-up scenes in Catherine or Persona 5 when the iris closes up and you can see every detail of the eye. In addition to making the character look compelling from every side, I find this way to be easier when you want to animate or add shape keys to your eyes. Here you see, the irises are a separate object that I can scale and make however I want. Moving on to the hair and grooming, this could be achieved by using hair curves. Hair curves are way easier than using the particle hair system, and it's way more practical in the sense that I could add the cell shading that I want, and I can convert them to poly meshes and retopologize them when needed using a plane. And honestly, that's it for the hair grooming. It's a really long process that requires a lot of patience and a lot of references for you in order to get them right. Basically, I use one of the curves that I have as the hair and another circle controller curve to control the shape of the individual strands. As for the render settings, they are very simple. I always enable the bloom and high depth shadows. For 4096 by 4096, and I usually have my RGB set to filmic so it can have the washed up look of some classic anime, the early 2000 anime like this. I really enjoy this style. It kind of reminds me of Death Note in a way, and with the bloom it just looks really beautiful. And sometimes I add a custom HDRI that is made specifically for anime. Sometimes that is generated within Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or whatever software that you prefer to use for your generations. Now let's talk on how I achieve the perfect shading for my character without any artifacts. Basically, what you need to know, in order to achieve a perfect cel shaded look, you need to know how to customize your normals. And to do them in a quick and easy way, you can use the normal transfer modifier. Basically, you use a subdivided cube that matches the shape of your head. You model it from 0 and you match the silhouette of your head. Then you transfer its normals onto your character's face. As you can see here, my character is not affected whenever I move the light, and you don't see the weird shading, only the shading that I want, which is a perfect circle around the face and some shade underneath the nose. Here is the subdivided cube of which I'm going to transfer my normals onto the face of my character. Also make sure you have your character's head vertices in a group so you can assign the vertices to that modifier, so it won't affect the entire body. That way the body will look weird. And this is the final result that you could expect. I don't usually give much attention to the rest of the body like the clothes or the hands, because even in Persona you can find some weird shading around the clothes and the body. It's just important for you to have a good face and a good bust. So anyway, I hope you found this guide useful. If you did, leave a like. See you in the next one.